Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hello, welcome to the SuperConnectivity Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Charlie Esser, and with me is
Phil Parrish.
And yes, we are here once again for SuperConnectivity as we barrel on down the road to Battleworld and Secret Wars. A mere 2 months from, and a lot to get to. A lot is going on. Couple of very interesting, very big points and stuff we've been given about Battleworld that I don't know. I really want to talk about, and the first is the Spider Island Battleworld. 1 second, sorry.
Okay.
Ugh, God, my phone is just rebelling on me right now. I don't. Oh, there we go. Okay. My wife wants me to get her Easter candy. Okay. Fun. Okay. Anyway. Okay, there we go. So that's done. Okay. So back to Super. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is this Battleworld, right? They're coming out with this particular realm within Battleworld takes place in, as they say, in an alternate timeline with Spider-Queen 1, and it's going to feature Agent Venom and a group of ragtag heroes against the Spider-Queen and her diabolical spider minions. But what's interesting to me about this story is that in addition to that, there's going to be a backup feature in each issue featuring Mayday Parker of the MC2, with Spider Uncle Ben and their adventures in the MC2. Now, what is fascinating to me about this is that this is taking place, at least seemingly concurrently, with Battleworld, and yet it seems to be in a universe separate from Battleworld, as if the MC2 is broken away from it. And I can't help but wonder why that is. Is it just that maybe these are stories that take place, because they say they take place just after they get back from the Spider-Verse crossover, and so obviously there is some time between the end of Spider-Verse and the start of Secret Wars, but I can't help but wonder if maybe when Otto was cutting webs, that maybe he cut some universes free from the 616 and the coming incursions. And it makes you wonder if perhaps the MC2 still exists and didn't get destroyed in all of this. That also might even go into that weird thing where they say, oh wow, all of a sudden there's only 12 universes left. How did that happen? And it makes me wonder if maybe part of that was just a lot of universes destroyed, but maybe some of that was Otto severing ties from universes. That these universes, as the Great Weaver says, these bonds will grow back, but for right now they're separate, and there's disconnectivity from the Great Web. And I wonder if that disconnectivity is part of maybe even what will be the resolution to Secret Wars. So that struck me as very fascinating. What did you think? Did you read any about that, Phil?
I heard a little about it, and I like your theory because at first I was like, well, maybe they aren't part of Battleworld because they're a quote-unquote possible future, and this is taking place in the present day, kind of, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a section of Battleworld that's the 2099 world, because aren't they doing Avengers 2099?
Yeah.
So maybe it is maybe Otto did inadvertently save the MC2.
Yeah. Well, and that would be, well, then that's interesting to me, because here's another interesting point to get into this, because that ties into another book that was revealed recently, which is the Red Skull book, which is apparently the Baron of Battleworld, who I think we can all just agree is Dr. Doom. I mean, that's the big mystery. Who's the evil genius behind Battleworld? Yeah. Okay. It's Dr. Doom. Okay, we can just say it now. It's Dr. Doom. It will be Dr. Doom. Everyone knows it's going to be Dr. Doom. Who else is it going to be? And they say that, and basically because this sort of gives this idea that the Red Skull is the former ruler of Battleworld, seemingly, and after his death, the new ruler of Battleworld, the new prince or baron of Battleworld, or however they defined it, has taken over. And it makes me wonder, so what universe do we have where the Red Skull ruled the world and then Doctor Doom did? And here's the thing. In the MC2 universe, they do go to their one cross-dimensional trip. They go to another universe where actually it was the next Avengers go to this evil universe where essentially what happened was the Red Skull took over the world. Basically, the Red Skull kills Hitler. Your basic Hydra plotline from the Captain America movie, where Hydra goes out and just takes over the world under the rulership of the Red Skull. And in that universe, when the Red Skull is rolling through Eastern Europe at some point, he meets a little boy named Victor, who is so filled with evil, he just can't help but take him under his wing. And of course, eventually, Victor Von Doom kills the Red Skull, takes over his conquering of the world, and then plans to go out to other universes to take over other universes. That was the basic plotline of this entire story, was that the evil Marvel universe, and of course it's filled with all these evil doppelgangers. You have a Scott Lang and a Thor, and who are all the Nazi versions of themselves, because they all grew up in a world that was ruled by Doctor Doom and the Nazis. And so it just struck me as interesting that we're going to have this MC2 universe, and that there are these parallels in the Red Skull universe or the Red Skull storyline with this sort of alternate universe version of that sprung out of the MC2. I'm really fascinated by this, and really excited about the Red Skull just in general. Just I love any villains in this. Is going to be who's in it again? It's Magneto and Lady Deathstrike and several other villains who are hired by the ruler to go out and essentially disprove that the Red Skull is out there, and if they need to kill him, if he is still alive, make sure he winds up dead by the end of the issue. So that's fascinating in and of itself. But I'm excited by the fact that these two facts got revealed, that there's an ongoing MC2 storyline separate from Secret Wars, and this that at the center of Battleworld is this Red Skull dominated universe. That's sort of the controlling force in this universe. So that's exciting to me. Did you find any books exciting this week, Phil, in the future reveals for our Secret Wars coming soon?
Let me see. Like I said, I think I saw there's a Avengers 2099 book.
Yes. That takes place as part of the 2099 universe. And I guess like Galactus said in the Guardians 3000 book this week, that these future timelines exist as these echoes of the past, but they do still exist, obviously, and they are
They keep changing.
exactly. Which if as I've said, if you go back to the very start of the new Guardians of the Galaxy series, that was the original plotline, was that something in the past was making the future be altered constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense when you think about it, because things in the past should always be altering the future. But that,
Oh yeah.
but it was causing problems for the people in the future because they felt they should be static, because they felt the past should be past, but the past is actually alive constantly, which goes into a whole other thing if we want to get into the concepts of stories and history and how the stories that are written influence the past and the present, because we assume the past is set in stone, but what if it's not? What if everything that has happened before didn't actually happen before? What if it's happening right now and is just as fluid as the now is? What if the past is as malleable as the future? That's a crazy concept, and it might be one that they touch on in these stories, because that seems to be something that could be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I was saying, a lot about what we're seeing on Battleworld seems to, for those who are Doctor Who fans and remember when the Doctor broke time, and basically
Mm-hmm.
all moments were happening at once, and they go into this world where Charles Dickens is being interviewed on Good Morning America, and Churchill is the Emperor of Rome, and all these things are happening all at once, because all time is one time, right? One moment, and that's how everyone observed it. And that's how Battleworld is all realities are one reality, and everyone just observes that the universe is one reality, even though there seems to be some inclination that there used to be more to the universe, but this is what the universe is. Going into one other interesting possibility is that the Red Skull that was killed on Battleworld could also be the Red Skull from Old Man Logan, who Old Man Logan killed at the end of, or actually in the middle of the Old Man Logan series. So that's another possibility, but which would be interesting. Although that was a whole other weird thing, because there was all sorts of crazy things going on in that universe too. Old Man Logan, good book if you don't think too hard. Like a lot of Millar's stuff, you'll read it. You like it, and then like about an hour later you go, wait a minute, that really doesn't fit with how that character should have been portrayed. His original stuff is much better than I feel like when he's writing for other people's characters, because with his own characters he can just do whatever they want and that's who they are, whereas when he's writing other people's characters, it's like he just writes what he wants those characters to be, and if it doesn't really make any sense with the history of the character, he doesn't really worry about it. But they're fun to read.
Well, sometimes with those storylines, it just seems like sometimes the writer hasn't like kept current with the book for the last couple years.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one part of it. Well, it was just, it's also he gets into weird sex stuff, which any comic book writers, look, I know we all were that desperate geeky kid in high school, and we had weird sex fantasies. Not every superhero has to have weird sex. I'm just saying that right now.
Charlie, you want to admit something?
I don't think that's. I'll admit all sorts of things, but I'm just saying. Last week we were talking about how prevalent mind control stories were in comic books, and that goes into that weird sex stuff. Although, when we were kids, we didn't realize how weird it was. Nowadays, comic book writers, we're starting to realize how weird our stuff is. So,
Did you just admit to having a Purple Man fantasy?
Oh, like you haven't. We've all had fantasies. Fantasies are okay. You can have a fantasy. You're just not allowed to make it a reality. That's where Bill Cosby went wrong. Anyway.
20 or 30 times.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not think about it. But that's Millar. But that's Old Man Logan, and it's, like I said, it's a great book to read. I'm really looking forward to the new Old Man Logan. I'm really looking forward to where they go with that character and how he interacts with this world, because it is so strange how much we know about Battleworld now, and how how the things we don't know are still just so looming large. Because it really seems like, oh, it's a connected universe and a connected world, but then the continuity of that world, it's hard for us to understand because it doesn't make any sense that it could have a connected universe unless people are somehow aware that, you know, their world, that they're just on a piece of what their world used to be, and now it's been crushed into the whole of this other world, you know?
Well, yeah, we have the puzzle pieces, but we don't know what the final picture's supposed to look like.
Well, exactly, and I don't know if the characters in the book know either. So that is what's going to be interesting. It is strange and it is mysterious, and you know, I wonder if it's going to be one of these things where you get to the edge of your territory and it like you walk through and it's like, you know, if you ever saw Time Bandits and they come to the invisible barrier and then they break the invisible barrier and it's like you can see through the invisible barrier, but then once you go past the invisible barrier, it's a whole other universe, you know? And I kind of feel like that's what it is. You're going to get to that wall, and you're going to walk through the wall, and you're not going to be in your own universe anymore. Now you're in a different universe that looks like a contiguous plane, but is actually just one small section of what reality once was in this separate Earth.
So you think everyone's going to be able to crisscross like worlds easily?
Well, actually, I think it's not going to be easy. I think that's kind of the point, is that it's not going to be easy to crisscross worlds, but apparently people can. And I'm guessing what it comes down to is that there's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but all I can imagine right now is that it's going to be like some kind of barrier, and you'll come to the edge of your world, and that's the edge of your world. That's your universe ends beyond this point. But that obviously the person in charge, who Dr. Doom, has the ability to pass between these worlds. You know. It's interesting. It's also interesting because this is all Hickman's story, and I was just something popped into my mind about something with because you know this is not the first time that Doom has been outside of the universe. He actually had this as a story with his shortly after the Council of Reeds was destroyed by the Celestials, because you know Celestials. Sure, why not? You know, Doom finds the old council chamber, finds all the Dooms that were lobotomized by the Reeds, and he rebuilds his own universe. And I remember, you know, in a later, when he's talking to Valeria once, and he said, "Oh, I was a god for a little bit, but it did not suit me." You know, it did not suit me to be a god, and now he's being a god again. He just can't give it up, man. And he's just not good at it. That's his problem. Reed Richards, he knows, would be just so much of a better god than him. And it just eats away at him. That
bomb-happy fool?
That bomb-happy fool. Well, you know why he would make a better god? Because he doesn't want it. You know, that's the thing. Is, you know, the only people who are good at that absolute power stuff are the guys who don't really want absolute power and aren't going to force their will on their universe, because that's what happened in that universe that Dr. Doom created. Was he created these two, like, being like a world of science, a world of magic, all this kind of stuff, and then eventually all of his creations just rebelled against him and threw him out of his own universe. So you know, it was because he wanted to control them, and things don't want to be controlled. And that is the thing that the Beyonders are learning, that, you know, they can't control the Thors and Hyperions of the world. In our latest issue of New Avengers, the Beyonders can't control things, because if they are sentient, they can comprehend, and if they can comprehend, then they want to make their own way. And, you know, nothing can determine what reality must be for them except themselves. And so they make their own reality, and that bugs these beings who feel that they should be the ones making reality, because as much as they want to poke and prod the universe, there are other things pushing back at them. And I think that's where we're going with this, is that the fictional characters are rebelling against the gods above, you know, that the beings that are trying to manipulate them, they are manipulating back. And I think that is where we're going, because of course, as we've said, you know, when Doom gets outside of space and time and causes all things to be around Rebam Alabal, and not for nothing, that is such ishkabibble there. That Doctor Doom came up with some made up word to call himself. I could, and I know why they couldn't have some kind of slurring. Oh wait, I see how they got to Doctor Doom from there. No, he just makes up a word and calls himself that, just to make up a word, and because it has no meaning. It has no meaning. I don't know, it has some meaning in Latvian, but I don't think so. Anyway, it's a contrivance that bugs me, Doom.
If you want people to trust you, I don't know. You might change your name from Doctor Doom.
Well, yeah. Well, here's what I'm going to say. If he was going to call himself Rebem Ball, he should have done that, in 1968, when he decided everyone would call him Doctor Doom. It's although actually, for everyone who always gets like who would ever be called Doctor Doom, it actually makes perfect sense because he's actually not Doctor Doom. He's Dr. Von Doom, and he comes from the town of Doomstadt, and Von means from. And Doom is just an abbreviation of Doomstadt, which means the city of Doom, which could have any kind of meaning in Latvian. It might mean flour in Latvian, got to mix the Doom with the yeast, and that's how we make bread,
Dr. Flower?
Dr. Flower. Well, if you translate from Latvian, that could be what his name is. Or it'd be Dr. From Flower. Because again, he's a Von Doom, not a Doom.
Tremble before the power of Dr. Sunflower.
Yeah, well, obviously, it wouldn't have worked as well if he explained the whole translation to people. I'm just saying, we assume that Doom has a negative connotation in Latvian. It could actually be a very positive word. It could mean, and that might be why he's doesn't get why everyone's all so down on him just because his name is Doctor Doom. It's like that. No, Doom is like a good word in Latvian. What are you talking about? Just because you guys have some weird mangled variation on the phrase. Although now that we know that Doctor Doom has been around for all eternity, maybe it's like how the Doctor, it just to throw in another Doctor reference, how the term the Doctor on some worlds meant like an evil, monstrous warrior, So it's like Doom didn't used to mean a bad thing, but after what he did to it, then we started saying, oh, that's real doomy. Anything is possible now that we're outside of time and space in the wild space. Which is still a space, which means maybe there's something even wilder outside of that. Anything is possible. Oh boy. So that's Secret Wars, and it is coming on us fast. Very exciting. Very exciting. Aside from that, did you see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, I actually did not watch it on Tuesday. I did not live tweet, and I actually even completely forgot about it on Tuesday. So I was like, "Oh wow, it's Wednesday," and I realized, "Oh shoot, I missed the new Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." And so I actually got to sit and watch it. It was. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I liked, I know they called out the word Masque several times, suggesting that she might be Madame Masque. Although part of me still wants to think that she's, Viper, Madame Hydra. Especially because she's certainly, I can see her definitely having that nihilistic bent now that her whole past has been wiped away, that everything should be wiped away. So I can get into that. But I like what her and Ward got going. Of course, I'm actually waiting for them to reveal that, like, the Ward's, like, maybe his mom's maiden name is Zemo or something. And, because there was something, it was something that they had mentioned about the Wards being, just, bred better, that they were, which is what the Zemos say about themselves, that they were made better, that they, through centuries of breeding, they became the perfect specimens of the Zemos. And, of course, they all got Deadpool face, which is why they wear that mask. So they're not that much better.
Yeah.
Pretty lousy. You get
Adhesive
Deadpool
X.
face and not Deadpool healing factor,
What about the big part of the episode? The Talbot's marriage is on the rocks.
Oh yeah. Well, I was actually kind of annoyed that they're kind of like doofying up Talbot so much. I mean, I get, okay, he's a Hulk villain, and Talbot and Ross were never that competent at Hulk busting, but they should be relatively competent at what they're doing. I don't know. I guess I kind of feel like they're dumbing down Ross a bit in that, or dumbing down Talbot a bit there, and it kind of it bugs me a bit as a as a fan of old Hulk stories, having Talbot reduced to this is bad. Oh, but I did look it up, and yes, Culver University is the university that Bruce Banner actually where Bruce Banner actually first became the Hulk too. Ironically enough, so Selvig worked at Culver. Bruce Banner worked at Culver. Betty Ross worked at Culver. Actually, interestingly enough, Jane Foster went to Culver. Culver University is a very big university in the Marvel universe, apparently.
It's like the Harvard.
Apparently, well, or supervillain U, apparently, or superhero U. One is better. Interestingly enough, I was wikiing that today, and it turns out that actually Culver University is the university that Bill Bixby's David Banner was working at when he became the Hulk. So
yes,
it all connects, and the reason for that was because Culver was the middle name of the producer of the Hulk series. So
wait, it's Super Connects.
Yes, it super connects. So yeah, so and of course we've got and we have the real Shield, which is nice to have the real Shield out there. We'll see where they're going. I still haven't given up that they're in some way tied to Maria Hill and Stark, though. This was one thing I was thinking recently. Everyone's talking about, Civil War and, the coming Civil War and how it's going to play out in Captain America 3 Civil War. And it was striking me recently, everyone assumes that the sides are going to be the same, that Tony's pro-registration and Cap is anti-registration. And I'm wondering if maybe that's not the way it's going to play out. Because, and I always felt it was kind of odd that Tony would be so pro-registration, although they explained it a bit in the story with the whole, Reed Richards explanation of how, if you don't register superhumans, they're going to destroy everything. And, he had this whole mathematical theorem that Tony bought into too. But it could very easily be that Tony is the guy saying, no, we shouldn't have registration, man. We got to be free to innovate and create Ultrons and whatnot. Cap's gonna be like, no, dude, when you are running around crazy like that, you're creating Ultrons and Hulks. And yeah, it works out sometimes, but maybe having a little bit of top down, old New Deal control on things, is a good idea. Maybe we ought to have some kind of transparent government agency, just sort of checking in on us from time to time. So I'm actually not convinced that it's going to follow the basic. And in fact, we pretty much know it's not going to follow the basic comic Civil War. Yeah, and they've said that actually it's not. We're just using the name. It's like Age of Ultron. It has nothing to do with the time traveling Ultron. It's just Ultron coming out and take over the world. It's not the whole book series we just did. And Captain America Civil War is not going to be the superhuman Civil War. It's going to be a variation. So it would not surprise me if Cap is actually on the pro-registration side, as because he is, and as I said at the time, he actually is a registered superhero. Him funding registration was, always seemed odd to me because he was, created by the government, for the government, by the government, and Tony Stark's the guy who's the loose cannon out there on his own, living the Randian dream there.
You think it's going to be Mace the Avengers versus some of the newer characters because they know the identities of all the Avengers?
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, I don't think it's going to be so much registration. That's the thing is that in the comic books it was about alternate identities, but really the only character in our current MCU who has an alternate identity is Daredevil. Luke Cage doesn't have an alternate identity.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's not in the MCU yet.
He's coming.
Yeah, but not until the end of Civil War. So, so exactly. But in the MCU, we don't have that dual identity problem. Because you don't have a lot of vigilantes yet in the MCU. Daredevil is really our first vigilante. Because really, those are the only guys who need to hide their identity as vigilantes because they're operating in that extra legal manner. Subverting the rights of free individuals. It is what it is. So Daredevil is our first character with a secret identity to hide. I think it's much less about registration and more about basically the index. Maybe not necessarily, locking people up on the index as Shield was doing, because Shield was Hydra, and Hydra wants to lock people up on it. So it could even be just something like Steve wanting to do something like the Initiative. Well, look, if you have powers, you should be trained to use your powers safely and responsibly. And Tony's saying, "Hey, we can't just impress everybody into a superhuman army." And that could be the conflict. Because I could see Tony being in that way, and Cap seeing as with great power comes great responsibilities. If you've got powers, you've either basically no one's going to just sit on their powers. Could be Cap's view. If you have powers, you're either going to be a superhero or you're going to be a supervillain. There's not a lot of people who are going to suddenly be able to burst into flames and just use it for barbecuing. Once you have these powers.
So what you're saying
Mhm.
is the conflict is going to be Captain America is going to say, we have to train these people, and Iron Man's going to be like, no, we have to shut them down.
No, I think Iron Man's view is going to be, people will sort it out for themselves. Maybe, maybe what Iron Man's view is. Look, we don't need to have everybody be registered. We just need to, let people do what they do, and if people get out of line, then we'll go Avengers on them. But we don't need to round people up and have them put them into training camps and, turn them all into little mini Caps. I don't know if that's quite how it's going to be. I mean, there might be a lot of nuance to it, because obviously I can see Cap being very worried about the idea of, a superhuman army too. Basically what you have is the problem that you have to have Cap and Iron Man on opposite sides in this, theoretically. And, the problem is that I don't see Tony learning his lesson after Ultron. Tony doesn't seem like the guy who's going to learn his lesson. I think he's going to be the kind of guy who says, no, just because I made a mistake doesn't mean I was wrong. So I still think that, global security should be in the private hands, and specifically my private hands. And that it shouldn't be a government top-down thing. And I can see Cap saying, no, you need some kind of structure, because people with superhuman abilities can go nuts real fast. Because, when we think about it, the guys who have powers are usually, the guys who become good guys are usually the exception to the rule. Supervillains tend to outnumber superheroes 2-1, if not by more than that. I mean, heck, look at Spider-Man. He's like 6-1, between people in New York City who got superhuman powers, and it's just one Spider-Man versus 6 regular ongoing villains. There's going to be way more villains than heroes, and how do you deal with this problem? And the logical, to me, I think the intelligent way is you get what hero, you find people with superhuman abilities, you train them to use their abilities, and then you hopefully either have them use their powers for good, or you make sure that you can shut them down. But just letting them run wild is dangerous, and we'll see what happens with that in Civil War. But first you have to get through Ultron and Ant-Man, which doesn't have a great little subtitle yet. It's just Ant-Man being Ant-Man. Yeah, that is the MCU and its current state.
That is Marvel in its current state.
Yeah, well, but Marvel is. That was the other thing we had to talk about: the all-new, all-different Avengers. Which is one of our books coming out of Secret Wars. We have 2 books that we know are coming out after Secret Wars. One is the all-new, all-different Avengers, with the other is the Uncanny Inhumans. Nothing that dramatic about Uncanny Inhumans, except that they're Inhumans and they're uncanny. But what's great about the all-new, all-different Avengers is we see Sam Wilson Cap and female Thor are in it, and what Thor Odin's son and Steve Rogers look like at the end of Secret Wars, we don't know. Thor could be still dead, although, as Ares once said, it's different for gods. They die, but they don't stay dead. And actually, that's another person who's dead who we don't know what's going on with him is Ares, because the last I heard of Ares, his son Phobos was looking for him in the realm of Pluto, and Pluto said, Ares isn't here. I don't know what happened to Ares after he died, but he didn't come here. So there's more than one god outside of unaccounted for right now. So maybe Thor and Ares come back after Secret Wars. It'll be fun to see. But but we know that at the end of Secret Wars, we're not getting a reboot. We're coming back to what is going to be largely the status quo right now, which is female Thor and Sam Wilson Captain America. So for whatever else happens, we know that's what we're getting. And I don't know if we, I know when you guys were talking about Convergence over on World's Finest. Check out World's Finest, everyone. It's a great podcast. You were talking about how DC does these reboots every 15 years, but now it's been just 4 years since the last reboot. And is it pretty much solid that Convergence is a reboot, that they are going to restart these characters, or do you think it's going, or could it be more like what Secret Wars is, which is that there's this great shifting, but that what we come back to at the end of it, it's still going to have all the history that's already been established?
I think they're bringing back some of the history, like the recent history, but my theory on Convergence is all the miniseries during Convergence are from different eras, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, everything in the 2000s. So I'm thinking they're going to see what sells, and I think they're going to pick and choose what sells and kind of make a new universe with bits of everything that's come before.
Well, what's interesting is after New 52, not everything rebooted. For example, the Green Lanterns didn't reboot. They kind of came right back to where they were.
Yeah, same with Batman.
Yeah, exactly, because those books sold.
Yes.
Those books were doing just fine. They didn't need a reboot. So everybody else got rebooted, but, Green Lantern and Batman, they just stayed right where they were. So, and actually, Marvel has literally said that what they're going to do is they're going to see what sells on Secret Wars, and that's what's going to tell them what's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what people like. We're putting a lot of stuff out there. Whatever you guys buy, that's what we're going to make more of. Oh, yeah, you like that character? Okay, here's some more of that character, Come on, Duck World. There is a Duck World on it. We do know there is Duck World as part of Secret Wars. And baby Marvel characters, which is just insane that they're part of Secret Wars. The mini Marvel babies. It's crazy, but they're there. Okay. This has been a really long episode of SuperConnectivity. We had a lot to connect this week.
Wait till Battleworld hits.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we got to do soon, man. We got to get our lists of what books we want to read and what our big go-to books are for Battleworld, because it's going to be interesting because everything's going to miniseries. So we'll have to do that next SuperConnectivity because we have connected too much and we are running out of time. But I have been your host, Charlie Esser. You can follow me at Charlie Esser on Twitter, and you can write me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And Phil, where are you?
Well, you can write to me and discuss anything comics at nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and I'm on Twitter at nightwingpdp.
Okay. And this has been SuperConnectivity. Connect with us again next week.